Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the latest webinar by MEED. This month, we are looking at the most popular subject these days, which is the Saudi Giga projects market. And I'll be giving an overview of the latest developments and some facts and figures on this massive program. My name is Edward James. I'm the head of content and research at MEED, and I'll be giving this presentation over the next 30 to 40 minutes or so. And after that, I will take your questions and try to answer them. As ever, please, if you do have any questions, submit them in the chat box or the Q&A box, and I will try to get round to answering them if I can after this presentation. So we'll be doing this webinar for 30, 40 minutes, and then I'll take your live questions. And as ever, this presentation is being recorded, so you'll be able to look at it in your own time. You'll also receive, if you've registered for this, you'll also receive a PDF copy of this presentation as well in your inboxes. So you will have a chance to share it with your colleagues or, again, watch it in your own time if you can't catch everything. Okay, let's kick off then. So, first of all, just a little bit about MEED before we start this presentation. MEED is a business intelligence company that's comprised of multiple different platforms and solutions, including MEED.com, our news features and analysis service, and MEED Projects, our projects tracking platform. We also have premium intelligence reports on sectors and countries in the market, and we also hold major events, conferences, and summits as well. And we also offer custom and consulting solutions, as well as marketing solutions for your businesses. Now, talking about the premium intelligence reports, everything that you see in the presentation today, plus a lot more, can be found in our Saudi Giga Projects 2024 latest update premium intelligence report. You can access at $100 discount if you scan the code. This is by far and away our most popular report and is the reference tool of choice for anyone interested in the Giga Projects market. It's used by government officials, government departments, both within the region and in Saudi Arabia, because it is the most comprehensive single document outlining the Giga projects, the different packages, the scopes, and the developments to date. So if you are interested in that, please scan the QR code to learn more. Okay, let's move on to the performance of the market in recent years and months, just setting the context before narrowing in and focusing on the Giga Projects program in Saudi Arabia. So just to reiterate what we've gone through in previous webinars, last year in 2023 was an amazing year for the projects market in the GCC as a whole across all sectors. So you can see a quite staggering $223 billion worth of contracts were awarded in the 6 GCC states. That's far higher than any expectations. It's certainly a lot higher than I thought would be possible. And that's way above $40 billion plus, above $50 billion plus, above the previous all-time record, which, as you see here, was in 2014, and almost double the performance of contracts awarded in 2022. So a quite unbelievable performance by the projects market, which awarded awarded hundreds of mega projects last year, and several dozen worth more than $1 billion. And you can see here from this slide that the majority of the work was focused or concentrated in just 2 markets. That's Saudi Arabia and the UAE. So Saudi awarded just over $100 billion. That's a record for the kingdom, and the first time any country in the GCC has awarded more than $100 billion in a given year. And the UAE also awarded $88.5 billion, another record for it in 2023 too. And both, as you can see here, jumped quite considerably from those 2022 numbers, from $61 billion in Saudi Arabia to $100 billion, and then $30 $86.7 billion in 2022 for the UAE, all the way up to $88.5 billion. So some very spectacular levels of activity in both of those GCC states. The other markets are fairly small in comparison, nonetheless are still fairly sizable in their own right. So why did this happen? Well, we've had a period of fairly high oil prices. We've also seen last year a convergence of high spending in both the oil and gas and construction and infrastructure sectors. So when those have combined in a single year, we've seen this really spectacular performance. So we're halfway through 2024, and the question is, well, 2023 was amazing. How is this year going to perform? Are we going to beat those 2023 numbers, or are we going to struggle to meet them or level with that? So we can see here that from the first 6 months of the year, we've had about $96 billion worth of contracts awarded in the region. Now, just by prorating that to the year as a whole, then we are looking at close to 190 or just over $190 billion worth of contracts awarded. Now, by any stretch of the imagination, that would be a fantastic year. It would be an all-time high if it wasn't for 2023. And it does seem, based on the award activity to date, that we'll just miss out on last year's record. Nonetheless, it's still a very impressive performance and shows that the market still has a lot of legs to it and that activity levels are remaining high. Now, of course, it's not impossible that in the second half of the year, we see a couple of $10 billion plus contracts, which could bring up the numbers to that close to that $223 billion mark. On the other hand, of course, we could also see the market slowing over the next 6 months. So we'll come back in 6 months' time, the end of this year or early next year, and see how the year as a whole has performed. But regardless, you can see that it's going to be a really good year, whether or not it beats last year's numbers or not. So we've got 3 poll questions today. This is the first one, just taking into account the graph you've just seen. How has 2024 been so far for your company? Has it been better than 2023? Has it been the same as 2023? Or has it been worse than 2023? I'm eager to hear your input. So click, please, on which of those situations you find yourselves in at the moment. Just waiting for the poll to fill out. Okay, so with almost 400 responses, we have 45% of you saying it's better than 2023, 30% of you are saying it's the same as 2023, and 24% of you saying it's worse than 2023. Now, I find that's very, very interesting indeed, because it illustrates that while the market is booming in terms of contract awards, for some companies in the market, a quarter of you, it's maybe not being felt. In fact, if anything, it's gone backwards. For 30% of you, it's pretty much the same as last year. And for 45% of you, the largest response group says it has improved. So a bit of a mixed message there in that poll. Okay, so now to the meat of the webinar presentation, which is on the Giga projects in Saudi Arabia and some of the latest developments on them. So just to recap, you've probably seen these. Let me give you these slides before, but just as a recap on what we define Giga projects as. We have the 5 official Giga projects, the PIF subsidiaries of NEOM, Red Sea Global, Diriyah, Roshan, and Qiddiya. Qiddiya now, of course, has subsumed 7 Saudi Entertainment Ventures, so it's a little bit bigger than before. But those are the 5 official Giga projects, in other words, what the government and PIF define as Giga projects. However, when people are talking about Giga projects, they are also adding in these other PIF subsidiaries like Suda, New Murabba, The Rig, Jeddah Central, Ruwa Medina, Ardara, Al Balad Company, and so on. So Often when we're talking about Giga projects, we're also adding those in. And indeed, the data you see here today in this presentation includes those projects. The data you see here also includes the non-PIF Giga projects. These, again, are unofficial, but we include them in the data anyway, which is the Al Ula and the Royal Commission in Riyadh City projects, as well as Green Riyadh, Sports Boulevard, and King Salman Park, which are also in Riyadh. We consider those also Giga projects because they have budgets well in excess of $5 billion. And although we don't classify them at MEED as Giga projects, and the data here doesn't comprise any of these companies and their data, we also have other large-scale Saudi project companies, which of course are spending billions of dollars at the moment in various other sectors. So we have the Water Transmission Technologies Company, WTTCO, we have National Housing Company, we have Aramco, of course, Saudi Arabia Railways, JEDCO, Ministry of Sport and the World Cup Programme, National Water Company, and so on. Okay, moving on to another very familiar slide. This is just giving you a brief summary of the Giga projects, where they are, what they involve. And as you see in the top left-hand corner, based on the latest data, about $85.6 billion of contracts have been awarded already on the Giga projects program. And in total, we estimate the program, when you take into account all of these projects, to be in excess of $880 billion. So we're just a little under 10% of the way through if the entire program is completed. And indeed, if other Giga projects are created or are added to this, then of course that pipeline or that total quantum of the Giga projects market will continue to grow. So still at very early stages overall of the Giga projects development. So what's happened this year in the Giga Projects program? Well, here are some notable contracts already awarded this year. As you can see, the largest one was to rebuild for the Trojena dams contract. That's $4.7 billion that was awarded, I think, in February or March. We've also seen the stadium awarded as part of the Jeddah Central project. There are also stadiums planned for Qiddiya, for Numaraba, and also in Neom, which are all being planned in advance of the FIFA World Cup in 2034. But of course, Saudi Arabia is also going to be hosting the AFC Asian Cup in 2027 as well. So a lot of stadium construction, stadium expansion work underway. A latest breaking development has been the award of the Package 1B on Oxagon Port for the above ground works, terminals, container terminals and buildings at the port there, $1 billion that was recently awarded. We've also seen Al Dana Phase 1 for Roshan awarded, the Opera House, Jeddah Central, track works for the new Formula One race track at Qiddiya, the Oceanarium and Coral Farm at Jeddah Central, 7 awarded the Mecca Entertainment Complex, and so on. So some very major contracts awarded over the first 6 months on the Giga project for the Giga project clients. And you can see here just what impact the Giga Projects program is having on the market. Of course, it goes without saying that when people are talking about Giga Projects, it really is because of the impact they've had on project spending. You can just see transport and construction, just how much they have jumped over the last 2-3 years. You can see here that the Giga Projects program is really propelling project spending to new heights. It's also worth looking at the water sector, which had a new record level of activity last year in the kingdom. The power sector, particularly in renewable energy and solar energy, also had a fantastic year. And petrochemicals too, due to the Al Maral complex, also had one of the best years in a long, long time in the kingdom. So it's not just all about the Giga projects, but of course the Giga projects are a major, major impact factor for the growth of the projects market in the kingdom. So top clients based on sort of known major projects, main contracts awarded over the last few years. And you can see here that the largest single Giga project client is Neom. with something approaching $32 billion worth of work already awarded. And of course, it's hard to escape the impact of NEOM and so many different packages and contracts out in the market across the different regions like the Line, Trojena, Sindala Island, and Oxygen, and so much more. So it's by far and away leading the pack, but it's also, of course, the world's largest project. So you would expect it to be so. Red Sea Global, which got a bit of a head start on everyone else, is well advanced on its first phase and has opened its first few hotels, about $10 billion of work. Then Qiddiya, the Six Flags theme park and the water park, is also doing very well, as is King Salman Park. NEOM hydrogen project, of course, which is the world's largest green hydrogen complex. Then Roshan, Diriyah, 7 Sports Boulevard, Jeddah Central, and so on. And you'll notice here that many of the Giga projects are not yet present on the list because they haven't actually, at this point, awarded most of their major works packages. So Giga projects like New Maraba, King Salman International Airport, Suda, Rural Medina, Saudi Downtown Company are yet to really begin with their project spending on their major works elements of their projects. So how's the market performed to date? So in terms of the Giga projects, as you saw from an earlier slide, about $85.5 billion have been awarded to date, starting in 2018. And you can see for that in each of those years, 2018 and 23, there was a year-on-year quite rapid growth in project spending on Giga projects. And in 2024, as of yesterday, you can see that we've had about $13.3 billion of contracts awarded on the Giga Projects program to date. Now, again, prorating that to the year as a whole, doubling that, we would get to something like $27 billion, which I think is interesting because that is lower than last year's number. And this would suggest that this record of continuing growth in Giga project spending is going to be broken this year. It does seem it's going to be difficult for the Giga projects to break through that last year's number. And this, and I'll talk about this in a bit, this may be indicative of some of the challenges the Giga projects market is experiencing recently around some rephasing and rescoping of some of the projects, as well as some of the anecdotal evidence around some of the financing challenges of these projects as well. Regardless, the Giga projects market is still in full swing. It's still performing very well, and even if it just misses out on that $30 billion number from last year, it's still a very large and exciting and vibrant segment. Just a reminder to submit your questions in the Q&A box, which I'll try and get round to answering. After this presentation is finished, I'll do a live Q&A with you all. And this presentation is being recorded, so you get a chance to watch it again on YouTube in your own time. And you should all receive, if you've registered for this, you should all receive a digital copy of this presentation too, to share with your colleagues. Okay, second poll question of the day. Taking into account what we just discussed and what we just seen, have you noticed any slowdown in Giga project activity in Saudi Arabia in your own personal experience? Have you noticed a slowdown? Yes, we have definitely noticed a slowdown. 2, it seems to be the same. And 3, it's the opposite. We've actually noticed an improvement in activity levels. So eager to hear your views on this. And please answer with respect to what you've actually seen yourselves rather than what you've read or what the data is saying. Okay, so the results are coming in, seem quite emphatic. We've got a very good sample size, so mathematically fairly accurate and representative. We have 60% of you saying that you have definitely noticed a slowdown, which is very interesting. 26% of you say it's the same as before, and then only 15% of you have noticed an improvement. So very, very interesting. So it's what we've seen in the data and what we've been reading about does seem to have been passed through to the market and what they're seeing as well. So it does seem that the market, or amongst you here, in the thick of it, are seeing also a slowdown. Very interesting indeed. Okay, so let's put that to one side. Let's see what's happened over the last few months in the Giga projects and take into account some of those recent developments. Okay, I've got a lot of slides here. I'm just going to go through them quite quickly. As I said, you'll be able to read this again when you get a copy, or watch it online as well. Okay, so we haven't included these as Giga projects in the data, but you can consider these to be very large mega projects indeed in the kingdom. And that is both line 7 of the new line 7 line of the Riyadh Metro. PQ applications have been submitted, as you can see by those groups there. And we would expect the tenders to be issued soon if they haven't already. And more advanced than that is the line 2 extension towards Diriyah. Bids have been submitted now and under evaluation by the 3 consortiums which are building the first 6 lines of the Riyadh Metro. But line 7 is a huge project, as you can imagine. It's running all the way from King Salman International Airport through the North Pole, New Murabba, and on to Diriyah, before moving on to Qiddiya eventually. So a lot of above ground, underground works, iconic stations, and so on. So is going to be a very substantial project in its own right. And these are moving. I won't be surprised if we see line 2 awarded this year, and may even see line 7 awarded or either at the end of this year or early next. Talking about metro projects, another project which is a mega project, but which we haven't included in the Giga projects data, is the Mecca Metro. This is an old project which was looked at very seriously about a decade ago, and that was then put on hold. But it's back, and it's been relaunched, this time under a new client, the Royal Commission for Mecca City and the Holy Sites. Details are still a bit sketchy on this, but it is live. It is being updated, with Sistra working on that. It's not clear if it's going to be done on the originally envisaged PPP basis, but neither is it very clear at this point what the precise phasing of the project will be and what lines will go ahead initially. But the Mecca Metro project is back. And again, we talk a lot about Giga projects, but there is a lot else happening in the kingdom. And what we've just seen on metros is just 2 very good examples of that. Okay, now onto the Giga projects proper. As I think I touched on this a bit earlier, this is Oxygen at Neom. Very recently, the editorial team wrote a story about estimated $1 billion contract being awarded for phase 1B, the container terminals and above ground works for the container terminal at Oxygen. And this follows 2 other major packages awarded over the last 12 months, including the dredging and quay wall work, as well as the second phase marine works, details of which you can see here. So Oxygen is moving ahead with some big contracts recently awarded. And to add to that, we've also seen very recently the district cooling plant for Oxygen also be awarded over the last couple of weeks. So there is still a lot of activity happening there. Likewise, another project approaching a very critical stage is Ruwa Medina. For those of you who are not aware of Ruwa Medina, it is a massive Giga project around the Holy Mosque in Medina, effectively involving the construction of dozens of new hotel projects to accommodate pilgrims doing the Umrah and religious tourism in general. So the first major package to come out is Super Block 5, which is about 18 hotels, mid-rise, so huge package, huge contracts there. And that'll be followed by other super blocks and then districts, including District 9A, which will be next after that. So Ruwa Medina is in the process of procurement for that Super Block 5, which will really kick off the full above ground construction works for the Giga project. A couple of years ago, the contract was awarded for the tunnel road, $1 billion contract for the road tunnel approaching the development. But now we're beginning to see the above ground works as well. So this is just the initial stage. Further super blocks and districts will again be multi-billion-dollar contracts, which will come to the market in due course. So that's under procurement. And another recent award, again, we don't include this as part of the Giga project's data, but this is for the Royal Commission for Riyadh City. This is the Wadi Al-Laban Bridge contract, which also was recently awarded, about $1 billion. The picture here is of the existing structure. So this is being replaced, and the winners of that contract is Iktash with Al Rashid Trading Contracting. So another big, very significant contract. Again, a lot of life outside the Giga projects themselves, and I think it's important to bear that in mind as well. Okay, so I guess this is the project everyone is talking about. I saw an interesting article even on the BBC just yesterday talking about this, but it's something that MEED has been covering for many months. And if you've been following what we've been writing, this won't be much surprise to you, but the line has been has had some clarifications on its first phase, and at the moment the focus is on first 4 or 5 modules, which are about halfway through the line over the hidden marina area. So just to recap, the line is 170 kilometers long in its full scope. But at the moment, the NEOM's focus is on a much smaller length, about 2.5 kilometers. But the building is still massive. It's 500 meters high, 200 meters wide, and 800 meters long for each module. So you can work out this is still a huge, huge project, and more than enough as a first phase for the line project. The scale of the construction is quite incredible. Huge amount of concrete, as you could imagine, massive amounts of glass, cladding, and other equipment and material required. And of course, it will have to be developed over multiple packages as well. It's far too big for just a handful of contracts. So piling work is already underway, and we're seeing excavation work on the marina as well. The marina the hidden marina is a slightly separate contract, which involves actually water passing under the line, because the marina is actually, the berths and the marina itself are at the other side of the line from the sea. So it's going to be an absolutely spectacular project, but is being rephased, which probably might not come as a surprise to many of you, given the extreme cost of the line, and it's probably a sensible and rational move by the authorities to come out and clarify what's actually happening on the line right now. Okay, perhaps something that not many of you are as aware of is another Giga project, which is the Al Ula development, a fantastic tourism development in the north of the kingdom, looking at the Nabatean civilization and these sort of ancient structures there. You can see it's a bit like Petra, you can see from this image. And Al Ula are going to be building more than 225 major infrastructure and construction packages between now and 2027. Multiple cultural museum type schemes, obviously a lot of hotel developments, many of them ultra luxury, but also social infrastructure, education, healthcare, affordable housing, and luxury housing developments too. And alongside that, a lot of infrastructure work, substations, water pipelines, sewage lines, a tram line, and so on. There's obviously a huge number of projects. I'll just give you this here, and this slide shows you just a handful of them. Perhaps the largest. These include the Sharan 3 resort, Sharan Janu, as 100,000 square meters of gross floor area. That's due to start anytime now. The stadium, as I mentioned, most of the Giga projects are planning stadiums. Numeraba is planning a stadium. NEOM has got one. Qiddiya has one, and Al Ula has one too. And this is going to start work at the end of 2025, according to Al Ula. Another big hotel project is the Azulik Luxury Hotel, 36,000 square meters of GFA. Construction due to start end of this year. And in terms of residential development, there's the Sidrat Al Ula, 194,000 square meters of gross floor area. Construction starting now. And then, like many other Giga projects, there's also an airport terminal at Airport at Al Ula, and Terminal 2 of that is going to start construction next year in Q2. That's going to have a passenger handling capacity of 4.5 million passengers a year. And these are just some of the key projects at Al Ula. Al Ula has sort of been awarding work and having seen construction a little bit under the radar over the last year or 18 months or so. But as you can see or gather from this, it's going to start accelerating very soon as well. And it's a great project, by the way, fantastic cultural and tourism destination. Now, not necessarily a project update in terms of a physical project update, but we have seen very recently 7 merged into Qiddiya. Now, what to make of this? So I think it's part of this rationalization drive that we are seeing with the Giga projects in the kingdom. It makes sense to merge 2 fairly similar companies into one, synergizing some cost savings, but synergizing as well, and allowing there to be a more direct objective and target for the sector in the kingdom, as well as rationalizing their project developments. So Qiddiya is going to be then therefore handling Seven's future pipeline of work, which is the entertainment complexes around the kingdom. Seven has actually been quite successful in awarding half a dozen major entertainment complexes, from all the way from Jazan to Dammam and Jeddah and Riyadh. But now this is going to come under Qiddiya's mandate, and will allow for a more coordination and cohesiveness with that. So make of that what you will, but it does tie in with this kind of rationalization that has been happening in the Giga projects market. Okay, New Murabba, again, a project which was announced later than some of the other Giga projects, but is now ramping up fast with procurement underway and pre-qualification underway for multiple contracts on the massive project. This is 19 square kilometers in the north of Riyadh. Consider that Dubai downtown is 3 kilometers squared. This project, 19 kilometers squared, just dwarfs that. Is the world's biggest downtown development, with, as you can see in the center, the Mukab, which is a 400 meter by 400 meter by 400 meter building, one of the largest in the world, surrounded by a dome, which will be a digital. So you will be looking upward and sideways, and you'll be looking at screens which will animate and which will display different images. And within that Mukab, you have a spiral tower, as you can see there as well. So the project is split into 3 main elements, which is infrastructure, vertical assets, and the Mukab itself, all 3 running in parallel. And we're expecting to see major works awarded over the next 18 months or so, starting with the infrastructure and logistics, then moving on to the piling for the Mukab itself, and then the raft foundations later this year. And then as time passes, moving on to the core of the Mukab, and then as that develops, the dome technology and installation will be put in place. Now, you're looking at some massive contracts here. The podiums and the raft foundations are, in total worth billions of dollars, let alone the infrastructure surrounding the Mukab, the roads, the substations, the sewage and water lines, and landscaping and so on is absolutely massive as well. That's even before you get to the vertical assets, the hotels, the residential, the mixed-use projects as well. So this is beginning to move. So over the next 18 months, you will see some huge contracts tendered and hopefully awarded as this project races to meet its 2030 opening date. Mustn't forget about a project which has been running for quite some time now and has already implemented and completed a lot of work, which is Diriyah, one of the 5 official Giga projects. This is on the west of Riyadh, and if you're in Riyadh, you can go and visit visitor centres. It's a very impressive, culturally distinct project, very iconic, and in keeping with the style of the UNESCO World Heritage Site at Turaif. It's now reaching a sort of interesting stage now with major work packages out for various different cultural and hotel assets, as well as Wadi Safar. Here's just a few of them, which are out in the market right now: King Salman University, Misk Heritage Institute, House of Al Saud and Journey of 100 Stories, museums, King Salman Square. There are multiple hotels in Diriyah, very high-end luxury hotels, and one of those in the market at the moment is the Capella Hotel. And then there's also the King Salman Foundation Library and Headquarters tender. These are just a taste of many of the dozens of tenders and contracts currently out on Diriyah as it moves ahead with Diriyah 1, Phase 1, Phase 2, and the Wadi Safar development as well. So that's pushing ahead. And another Giga project, which is beginning to start because it was announced later and therefore is only really getting underway now, is the Suda Peaks development in the Asir province. This is all about Suda development, creating a tourism infrastructure in the province. And its first phase is the Suda Peaks development, a beautiful project in the mountains of Asir. The phase 1 includes 9 hotels, 940 rooms, 250 homes, and 20,000 square meters of commercial space. So that's procurement for that is starting, but master planning is complete. And this opens another new avenue of opportunities in the Giga project space. Just on that issue, you can see here many Giga projects due to be awarded because they're either under tender or in bid evaluation. Just to give you an idea of some of those, Enewa, NEOM's utility arm, has a 1.2 gigawatt wind farm out in the market. Of course, you've got the signalling and rolling stock track works contracts under the line along the spine. You've got more solar power projects in the NEOM region. Of course, all the Giga projects are sustainable, using their own energy sources of energy when they are off grid. We've got the connector depot linking the line with Oxygen. We've got Roshan, 5,000 villas. We've got Kadir, roads, utilities, tunnels package. Chedi Hotel at Diriyah. The next stadium planned at Qiddiya, the Motorsport Hotel complex at Qiddiya as well, and so on. So multiple exciting packages. So yes, we may have seen a little slowdown in the Giga projects market and some awards and tendering, but the short-term outlook is still very positive. We've still got a raft of contracts out in the market due to be awarded this year. Okay, moving on, let's look a bit further ahead at the medium-term pipeline. And for this, we've added to the tender and bid evaluation projects, those which are also in design or nearly finished with design, just to see what's coming up over the next 18 months, 2 years. And you can see it's about $170 billion worth of Giga projects at that stage. Construction is nearly 2/3 of that, as you would expect, $100 billion, followed by power, then transport infrastructure, and then water. Don't forget water. All these projects need transmission pipelines, water pipelines, sewage treatment, and sewage lines as well, especially those which are in remote areas like NEOM and Red Sea Global. So a lot of water investment too, as there is in power, mainly renewable energy. And then in terms of the breakdown by status, so we have in design and feed about $11 billion each quarter. We've got bid evaluations from $21 billion. We've got PQ stage, $47 billion. And in design, we've got about $71 billion worth of work. So that medium-term pipeline looks fairly strong. Based on 2023 numbers, that's 5 to 6 times the value of work awarded in 2023 alone. So it does show that the pipeline is very healthy indeed for the Giga projects. Just in terms of those packages broken down by client, again, you see NEOM is leading the way, obviously with the modules on the line, but also the rail works, the Oxygen, Trojena, and so on. Then Enewa, its utilities company, is also has a huge amount of work planned, as we just saw. Then Daria, more than $20 billion. Kadir, more than $10 billion, as has Red Sea Global. And then we have New Maraba, Royal Medina, Saudi Downtown, King Salman International Airport, and so on. Now, this we can only include and assess and analyze data for projects and contracts that we know about. It's almost certain that there are many other package breakdowns and contracts which we are not yet aware about or haven't been finalized. And so please bear that in mind when looking at this data, that it can only take into account what we know. Just to let you know, please submit your questions. I'll do my best to answer them. As I mentioned, there is life beyond the Giga project sector. Just a quick couple of updates. Aramco recently launched, revealed a 3-year plan to 2026, where it says it is planning 99 projects upstream, downstream, and in infrastructure. As you can see in the details here, 58 oil, gas, and petrochemical projects, 22 pipeline distribution developments, and 19 civil and marine infrastructure projects. And within those are multiple packages. So 12 of those 99, 12 are very substantial offshore works, while the others are onshore. Some examples include the sulfur recovery, unit upgrades, a gas lift program, Marjan, and so on. But the biggest individual projects are the long-awaited liquid to chemicals or oil to chemicals complexes, of which there are 3. Will be in Yambu and Jubail, the Yasref, Samref, and Sasref existing refineries. Massive projects which are coming up. And there's also going to be a greenfield new refinery complex on the Gulf Coast. So very exciting for Aramco, which is continuing to be one of the world's leading CapEx spenders. Mustn't forget also electricity side, SEC, transmission and distribution. Recently, we got details of SEC's 6-year expenditure program to 2030, $126 billion it intends to spend on T&D, that's substations, overhead lines. You've got the details here. The bulk of the expenditure is going to be on extra high voltage substations, so 380 kV and above. Of course, when you have substations, you also have high voltage overhead lines to serve them from the power plants, and at the same time, we also have 98 billion on underground cabling networks too. So you can imagine the amount of equipment and material that this requires in terms of GIS breakers, transformers, cables themselves, and the substation infrastructure as well. So huge capex there. And finally, also just on the utility sector, water. Saudi Arabia has one of the world's, if not the world's largest water transmission program, and linking that with storage facilities, we have now the WTTCO. It is planning $38 billion by 2030. I've got some of the details here for you, and as you can see, long distance, wide diameter conveyance systems, as well as some very substantial reservoir and storage facilities too. As we saw earlier, the water sector reached a record high last year, and it really is a key sector of investment right now in the kingdom. Okay, demand signaling. Now, I've worked hard on this, trying to obtain individual pieces of data on the material demand for some of these Giga projects, as well as some of the other clients in the kingdom. Now, this isn't comprehensive, of course. Not all of we haven't been able to get all of the requirements. In fact, some of them might not even be known individually. But this table is just to give you an indication or be indicative of the sort of material requirements which are required in the kingdom. So if we're just taking concrete, of course, which is the material everyone requires in all of the projects, regardless of the size, you can see there's huge requirements. Roshan says it needs 40 million tons of concrete alone for its projects. The first 5 modules need 11.5 million tons. Aramco says it needs 4 million tons, and the PIF estimates that in total it's going to need more than 900 million tons to 2030 for its subsidiaries. So don't double count. PRF is standing on its own and encompasses all its subsidiaries. And these, of course, just estimates. It's based on all the projects happening on schedule, and as we've seen, there's going to be some rephasing. So the numbers won't be this high, most likely, but it's still indicative of the scale of the ambition. And regardless whether it's only half as much, it's still very, very substantial. AC units, 3.5 million AC units required by Roshan, 140,000 by Diriyah, for example. Ruwa Medina says it needs 104,000. Roshan needs 4.3 million windows. Ruwa Medina needs 260,000. Roshan needs 5 million doors. Diriyah needs 350,000 doors, for example. 80 million tiles for Roshan, 5.2 million tiles for Ruwa Medina. Cables, 5.2 million meters of cables for Ruwa Medina, 44 million meters of cables for King Salman Park, 54 million meters of cables for SEC. Rebar, 1.2 million tons for Diriyah, 1.6 million tons for Line. The Line sanitary ware, which is basically bathrooms, sinks, toilets, baths, and so on, 6.5 million pieces of sanitary ware for Roshan, 660,000 pieces for Diriyah, and 625,000 pieces for Ruwa and Medina. And steel, 2.4 million tons of steel required by Aramco, 34,000 tons of steel for Ruwa Medina. So it just gives you an idea of the scale of the material requirements for some of these projects. Again, this is exclusive to MEED, and you're the first people to see this. Challenges. Okay, so we've gone through all those projects. We've talked about it. We look at some of the data. So what are some of the key questions in addition to what we've discussed? How will the region deliver this massive pipeline? Is there enough labor and engineering capacity to deliver it? We've seen a big increase in work recently, and how to deliver that is a challenge people are thinking through. So far, we haven't had a major shortage of contractors, but it is becoming a seller's market, and indeed margins are increasing, and as clients are increasingly trying to outreach to international contractors and material suppliers to try and get them onto the vendor lists and work on their projects. Equipment, material resources, as we just seen, how are we going to procure and deliver all this material that's required? Again, bringing in foreign investment to set up shop in the kingdom to manufacture the required equipment on the back of a guaranteed offtake. That's one way. But again, it's reaching out to material suppliers around the world to try and secure this materials. What about cost inflation? Okay, so when a lot of these projects were budgeted or estimated in 2019, 2020, costs were much lower. And what we've seen with the rise of inflation and higher inflation generally is the costs balloon for many projects, which is one of the reasons why we're seeing some of the projects rescoped and rephased. Just, is there enough money to pay for everything? And yes, we are seeing some of these Giga project clients go to market and secure borrowing. We've seen Red Sea Global, we've seen NEOM secure loans, we've seen the PIF issue bonds. So the efforts are being made to raise finance for these projects. But nonetheless, there are still question marks about how they're going to be, is there enough money to finance them all? Of course, we've got geopolitical events, the Red Sea issues, what we've seen recently, Israel-Palestine, and other geopolitical regional issues, even things like the Russia-Ukraine crisis, which has resulted in a lot of inflation. These are also things which, of course, affect the market in this part of the world, as they do anywhere in the world, to be honest. We've got very aggressive deadlines. We've got iconic designs that haven't been done before. We've got projects being, really pushed to be delivered by 2030. And this creates a lot of construction risk and as well as cost inflation. So again, how to deliver on time and to budget is a major, major challenge. And that, of course, is localization. As obviously the authorities are rightfully trying to increase the local content and localization. So that is something also that can pose some problems. Right, final poll question before the Q&A. Which of the following materials or equipment do you feel or see as having the biggest availability challenge now or in future? So please read through all of these before you answer. We have cables, HVAC systems, plant, rebar, steel, concrete, cement, piping, facades and cladding, furniture, sanitary ware, and internal fittings like windows, doors, and tiles, and so on. So please select one of those, the one which you feel or see has got the biggest issue. So multiple answers here, potentially. Let's see what you are answering. It's great to see so many of you on the call today. More than 750 people have come on. Okay, so we've got multiple answers here. So I have to go through them all. And the winner, or maybe the loser, with 26%, is concrete and cement, where people see the shortage. The interesting thing about cement and concrete is that prices for cement have actually been declining in Saudi Arabia over the last few months, which is very interesting indeed. But clearly going forward, as we reach more above ground works, that's going to be a problem. 19% of you say steel, you see as being the biggest issue, followed by 14%, which is plant equipment, bulldozer, trucks, cranes, etc. 11% of you say cables, and the rest are all under 10%, with internal fittings and furniture being the lowest ones. And rebar as well, interestingly, rebar, very little concern about that. It may be that because we're at the stage where we're still initial stage where furniture and internal fittings are less of a problem. Anyway, very interesting. Thank you very much for your participation there. For the Q&A, just a reminder, please, of our Giga Projects report, full of information, 600 pages, I think, going through every single Giga project, the major contracts, future pipeline contracts and scope of works and contact details, how to register, the procurement pages and so on for the Giga projects. So again, if you're interested in that, please scan this QR code. Also, just a reminder, some of you will have attended our amazing Saudi Giga Projects Summit and conference earlier this year in May in Riyadh. It was amazing. We had almost all of the Giga Project clients presenting their projects. And we're happy to announce that we will be doing, again, the same, an expanded edition over 3 days next year in Riyadh. We'll be looking at even more detail, the Saudi Giga Projects and what's happening on them. There's opportunity to meet the Giga Project clients. Of course, there are workshops and separate streams on individual projects, great networking. We're going to be doing some galas after event receptions and so on. It's going to be bigger and better than ever before. And if you're interested in Giga projects or mega projects in general across all sectors in the kingdom, you should definitely look into it. Again, if you want to find out more, please scan this QR code here. Here are some of the partners that we had attending the event and sponsoring, as well as speaking this year, just a couple of months ago. I'll give you an idea of the kind of companies and that were involved in the event. Finally, last poll question, if you can indulge me, please, a quick poll question on whether MEED can help you with your business before we move on to the Q&A. If you don't mind answering the question, and then we'll move on to the Q&A. Okay, well, thank you very much for answering that. It's good to see so many responses. We'll be in touch following this. Okay, so Q&A. Sorry, I seem to have overrun as usual. I love the sound of my own voice, it seems, but I have got make some time to answer your questions. So stick around. If you've got a question, please stick it in, and I'll do my best to update it. Okay, answer it. So the first two questions, perhaps not surprisingly, about the line and it being descoped or rephased. And yes, it's true. The line is being, well, depends on who you speak to, whether it's a rephasing or whether it's the original plan. But now the line has been under its first phase scaled back to 5 modules, which is still huge project in its own right. And then later elements of it will come over time, over the next decade, 2 decades or so. So yes, it has been scaled back, but then again, there's more than enough under this initial phase as it is. So perhaps not a bad thing. But yes, the line is a little bit smaller under its first phase than it may have given the impression it was earlier, but still going ahead. Question, why is the RIG project and why is it not on the map? Very good point. The RIG is another PIF subsidiary and can be considered a Giga project. It's about $5 billion. Tendering has started for the terminal works and infrastructure onshore, and procurement is starting also for the offshore platforms. So I think there's 4 major contracts for the RIG. And if you are interested in knowing more about the RIG, then please, you can find it in this report. Yes, but the RIG is moving ahead, but it's obviously on a scale much smaller than some of these other Giga projects. But good point about it not being on the map. Thank you. I haven't seen the master gas pipeline system on the presentation. It's very big, so it should be. Correct. The master gas system is a huge project, $10 to $15 billion. Some of the contracts have already been awarded by Aramco. The reason it's not on this list today is because we're focusing on the Giga projects and the civil side, and we don't really incorporate Aramco oil and gas projects or power projects and water projects under the Giga projects program. We'll save that for the oil and gas webinars, but yes, the master gas system is well underway, phase 3, and if you want to know details about the low bidders, the packages that have been awarded, 15 packages or so, then you can please go onto MEED.com or MEED projects for more information. Again, more questions about NEOM and the line. The question everyone wants to talk about. Again, just to reiterate, yes, there has been a refocus on the line for the first 5 modules. I think this is just a pragmatic decision. At the end of the day, you're still looking at 80,000 people living in this first 5 modules, still looking at tens of billions of dollars for it, and it's just a rationalization given that you should, it's best to build it in phases. So fairly pragmatic and realistic expectation now been set for that, and it's still going ahead. But yes, it has scaled down a little. And indeed, if you've been following MEED, we were reporting on this last year and earlier this year as well. So won't come as a surprise to long-term MEED readers. How is financing being done on these projects? Well, these projects are being funded off balance sheet. They're not coming directly from the state. The PIF has been funding them, especially in those early infrastructure works. But over time, we're expecting to see these project companies earn revenues and start becoming self-financing. But of course, they're also expected to raise their own finance. And we've seen that already with NEOM, Red Sea Global raising finance, and PIF issuing green bonds, and also corporate finance, corporate lending, as well as share sales in Aramco to help finance this and fund this Giga project program. Nonetheless, of course, there are questions about financing. It's not an unlimited pit of money. And while that part of this rationalization of the Giga projects program reflects the fact that you can't proceed with all these projects at once if you don't have the financing. So it is a critical issue. And we'll see how that pans out over time. Of course, each of the project company is expected to IPO at some point down the line as well. So completely detach themselves from the PIF and be self-funding. Part of the big problem, or I think it's fair to say, in the Giga project program is the lack of investment, local or international. All these Giga project clients have really struggled to attract international investors. There was a hope that much of the projects would have been financed by this international local investment, but it hasn't come along for one reason or the other. We could sit here all day looking at the reasons why the investment hasn't come into these projects, but that has created a shortfall, I think it's fair to say, in terms of the finance. Do you think the slowdown will continue? Very good question. If you look at the short-term and medium-term tenders and projects in the market, then you would say that there's still a quite healthy pipeline. We've seen, just for example, just the other day, Oxagon Port awarded. We've seen some other big contracts awarded in recent weeks. So activity is still continuing, but it's also fair to say that the projects which are prioritized are the event-driven ones. Those are the stadiums, the expo sites, and the Asian football championship projects, as well as the winter games in Trojena in 2029. Because these have to be completed by a certain date, therefore they're going to get the priority. And those are the ones that will be the most likely candidates for going ahead. And then looking at the other projects, well, it's all about pragmatism, rationalization, and understanding which ones bring the best bang for the buck. And we'll wait and see how that proceeds. Please can you clarify performance to date? Slide values, do they mean executed values? Yes, they mean contracts awarded. Any update on the Delta Junction tunnels? Good question. I don't have one precise update for you, but of course, with the line being rephased, then clearly there are question marks around the high-speed railway and some of the elements, track works, signaling, and rolling stock contracts for that. But I don't have an update completely for that, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some changes to those projects. Are you planning to have any specific mobility automotive webinars in the Middle East region in the near future? Well, funnily enough, we did actually have an automotive webinar just 2 weeks ago, which was very well attended and very informative. And we will be doing more around automotive works. Please reach out to us or reach out to me here. You've got my details, email and telephone number. Please reach out to me if you want to know more about that. Airports. What about the aviation market, Giga projects? So yes, we've got, of course, King Salman International Airport, one of the world's largest airports, which is looking to be finished by mid-2035, 120 million passengers a year. Of course, this will help stimulate the growth of Riyadh Air and the expansion of Saudi Arabian Airlines as well. So this is one of the Giga projects on the PIF, and that should start moving soon. Of course, it's now competing with the Maktoum International Airport in Dubai, which was announced a month ago or so. So we're going to enter a period of some really big airport projects, and that's Riyadh and Dubai. What about Jeddah? Jeddah also is going to become one of the world's largest airports, new terminal, expansion of the Hajj terminal, new runways, new logistics areas, and free zone. So JEDCO, which is responsible for Jeddah Airport, that is also going to have a very substantial investment program in the next 6 years or so. And then we have Abha International Airport, which is out in the market at the moment for PPP. 63 companies submitted EOIs just a few weeks ago, and that will go out to bid as well. A lot of interest there. Keep the questions coming. I'm going to keep running along until I've answered all of them, I hope. Will consulting projects carry on, and do you think they'll be negotiated with lower price as compared to earlier? Interesting question, and I'm on the record here, so I'll be careful what I say. But yes, I mean, clearly there are a large number of very large consulting contracts underway in the kingdom, and they're talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in consulting work. And no doubt, there will be conversations around payments and contract values around that. I'm looking at your question. So here's something about pre-qualification registration on the vendor sites. what should a company do to get attention of the project clients and a slice of the opportunity? So first of all, to register and pre-qualify and be registered as a vendor for these Giga project clients, you need to go to each of their websites and you need to go to their register page or procurement page and sign up for them and register for them individually. There is no central system for tendering or registration on the Giga Projects program. Maybe there should be. But as it stands, you have to pre-qualify and register individually, which can be a problem when you've got so many Giga project clients and you don't know who to potentially target and work for. But it's a seller's market right now, as I mentioned. There aren't enough vendors in the market, contractors, suppliers, and as a result, the project companies are reaching out, are dying to get to meet as many companies as possible and have them register with them. They are competing against each other at the end of the day. So if you are registered or are going to register, you have a pretty good chance of being involved in the tendering process or being invited to tender for these Giga projects. Earthworks have already started on New Maraba with several contractors already present. Yes, that's correct. The Chinese are doing the main piling and earthworks contracts already. A huge contract awarded to the Chinese, China Harbour, I think it is, on the New Maraba. Absolutely correct. And then we're going to start seeing tendering for the raft foundations, podiums, and so forth later on this year and next. Financing, questions about financing, liquidity issues, interest rates, and so on. Yes, of course, financing is a big problem. Funding these projects, however, we've seen a couple of the big Giga project clients have already secured financing, so there is an appetite to help finance them. We're going to see increasingly more and more PPP projects getting the private sector involved in the financing, development, construction, on operation and ownership of some of the elements of Giga projects, which will alleviate some of the strain on the financing requirements. So that is certainly also something that is happening too. But it is a very good question around financing and something which is difficult to answer at this stage. Are there any specific renewable projects associated with NEOM? Well, yes, as you can see, maybe from some of the slides we presented, both Red Sea Global and NEOM project are sustainable in terms of their energy being supplied by solar power and wind power, as well as their district cooling and seawater desalination requirements. So there is several gigawatts of solar power under construction or planned at NEOM, as well as in Red Sea Global. So yes, they all have substantial renewable elements. Who are the top contractors executing these projects? And so the top contractors, well, we have lots of local firms, the four national champions under the KF, Al Mabani, Al Bawani, Al Saif, and Nesma, have all been very active. Modern Building Leaders, MBL, is there too. ALEC, as well, has been involved from the UAE. We've got a number of other, we've got a number of Qatari contractors coming in. We've seen Urbicon be very successful recently. We understand HBK is coming in. We've seen Turkish firms like MAPA and Dogush being very successful at IKTASH. And of course, we've also seen a lot of Chinese contractors coming in, especially in the infrastructure works. We can bring in lots of plant, labor, and materials in to help deliver the program as well. What we are missing out on at the moment is other big Western international contractors. Many of them have been hit hard by payment issues in the Kingdom and the Middle East as a whole over the last 2 decades, and are therefore reluctant to re-engage with projects in the market. And they will need some convincing to come back in. We've already seen some do so, though. We've seen Bouygues come back in, Vancy, and so we're hopeful that they'll be tempted by the huge opportunities on offer, as well as the increasing margins and increasingly more generous contractual terms. How are projects being awarded? Are they on a bidding basis or are they being negotiated? Well, the beauty of the Giga Projects program is that these entities are not bound by government procurement rules and can set their own procurement processes. And as a result, each one handles procurement quite differently. Some have engaging early contractor involvement, advanced work packaging. Some are reaching master contracting agreements, while others are taking a more construction management approach. So it's a variety of different contracts, but there is an increasing push to have more flexible advance payment rates, no tender bonds, no performance bonds, no tender fees, for example, releasing some cash at the completion of the project. So there is an understanding that to be as attractive as possible, to get as many companies involved as possible, terms do need to be as flexible and as generous as possible. And that there is that general trend at the moment on these Giga projects, which makes them even more attractive for companies to participate in. Why is FDI not so great and investment not so great on the Giga Projects program? As I mentioned, a lot of these projects have really failed to obtain foreign investment or local investment even. And this is one of the big challenges. There's no sort of distinct one reason why they haven't managed to attract investment. Maybe it's the economic rationale hasn't been fully hasn't been fully provided. It could be there's a wait and see approach with things like tourism projects and tourism demand in the kingdom. It could be that investors simply don't know enough about the projects to be able to make these investments. But a lot of it is a wait and see attitude. And geopolitics is also another reason. But it's clear that the Giga Projects program as a whole needs to do better in terms of its messaging around the attraction of foreign investment into the projects. Otherwise, it is going to struggle. And you can start and see a shift, a sort of greater visibility and transparency on some of these projects, provide more clarity on them, and to start showing that work is happening on the ground to try and draw in some of these big investments into them. Two questions around carbon intensity. And yes, it's true to say that while a lot of these projects are sustainable, it's inevitable that there is a huge amount of embedded carbon in their raw materials, such as concrete and cement. There is a push to use more sustainable materials, green cement, green steel, and so forth. But of course, at the end of the day, there isn't enough supply of these materials to make these projects fully sustainable in carbon. However, operationally, their plan is to be net carbon neutral. But of course, yes, people can see that on the one hand, that's a very worthy aim, but on the other, of course, there is going to be some embedded carbon in them. Any news on King Salman International Airport? Yes, there is some big consulting PMC contracts underway right now for that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing the first early works, earthworks, and various other earthwork packages, foundation packages, be tendered this year, and starting to see some of the terminal concourse work also start next year. A lot of questions I'm not really able to answer in a comprehensive way at the moment, which probably deserve a bit more time and attention. Which projects are being rescoped, scaled back, or rephased, for example, is a difficult one to answer, also because that's not entirely clear either. But I think when you're looking at that, you probably want to look at which projects had the easiest rate of return on investment at the moment. So a project like Roshan, for example, which already, thanks to off-plan sales and so forth, already has a quite good, healthy cash flow. Maybe Kadir as well, which will draw in lots of revenue as soon as it opens. So there are Red Sea Global and its hotel projects already open, starting to earn income. So you can look at it maybe from that perspective. Otherwise, you can look at projects which are iconic and which are central to Saudi Arabia's ambitions, and of course also those event-driven projects like the Expo and the World Cup stadiums. Can we have webinars about automotive mobility? Can we have them about solar projects? And can we have also about UAE projects market? Yes, so we've done fairly recently a renewable energy webinar in the MENA region. You can find that on YouTube and on our website if you want to watch that, and go to our MEED page on YouTube and you'll be able to watch that. In terms of the UAE projects market, we will probably do something later this year. How do you see BIM delivering the Giga projects. Yes, construction technology is critical, especially modular technology. Off-site modular is very, very popular right now because it allows to build quicker and cheaper at scale, but also it reduces the amount of on-site labor, which is critical when given the shortage of labor accommodation. So it is a trend right now. BIM is being used as standard across all of these Giga projects, and indeed companies that come with advanced construction technology solutions such as 4, 5D, even 6 and 7D BIM, drone technology, wearable tech, Internet of Things, 3D printed solutions will of course be or have an advantage potentially on these projects. What about the timber industry in Saudi Arabia? So interesting question about timber. If you look at, say, Red Sea Global, they've got enormous timber requirements for their hotels. I'm not aware of so much timber requirement on some of the other projects, but certainly there has been a reach out to Scandinavian companies, Eastern European companies for timber. So there is obviously a shortage, or there's no real domestic production of timber in the Kingdom of the Middle East as a whole. So it's certainly an area where these project companies are looking to import significant amounts. So I'm just reading through the questions, got more than 100 questions. So this question, someone has said here that cement emits 0.8 kilos of CO2 for every kilo of cement produced. Thank you very much for that stat. That sets everything into context about embedded carbon. Hi, Ed. Wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. That makes me very happy. Can you please shed some light on the Royal Commission projects, especially in Jazan? Yes, well, both the Royal Commission for Jazan and as well as Al Khair, Jebel Yambu, a lot of projects, bridges, substation work, roads, basic infrastructure. I do have actually a lot of details on the breakdown for the Royal Commission projects. I don't have a chance to go through them, all of them today. But yes, there was a lot of work, seawater cooling, district cooling, and water outflow projects for the Royal Commission for Jebel and Yambu. So yes, please reach out to me and I'll try and give you some information on that. The question about green energy, green hydrogen, blue hydrogen. We just done fairly recently a webinar on hydrogen in the Middle East, and we'll be doing one later this year. So again, go to YouTube and you can find something, a long detailed presentation about hydrogen in the region. Is it true about the line? Yes, it's true. Which projects will get prioritized? I think I've answered that already. Financing, another financing question, which I think I've already answered as well. Question about the Q Express. I didn't talk about the Q Express. So earlier we saw about tendering for the Line 7 of the Riyadh Metro from King Salman International Airport through Project X, the Tool 2-kilometer tower, high tower, the North Pole, Diriyah Gate, and New Murabba all the way to Qiddiya. That's a metro project, but Qiddiya is also planning what we call the Q Express, which is a high-speed rail link between the airport to Qiddiya, running along pretty much the same route, but with the aim of carrying passengers, international arrivals from the airport straight to Qiddiya. And indeed, talking about Qiddiya, it's not clear yet where the 2030 Expo is going to be located. Originally, the expectation was that it was going to be near King Salman International Airport, or the King Khalid International Airport as it is today in the north of Riyadh. But latest thinking is that it could also be moved to Qiddiya as well. So in which case, even more rationale for the Q Express high-speed rail link. So that is moving as well, I understand, as is high-speed rail links between Riyadh and Kuwait City and Doha too. Any updates on Riyadh Expo 2030? No, which is a bit worrying because it's only 6 years away. And as far as I know, and talking to people, there's still not yet a lot of transparency around who the ultimate client is going to be. Will it be a special organization set up? Will it be Qiddiya? Will it be the Royal Commission for Riyadh? It's not yet fully known. If people do know, let me know. As well as the location, again, let me know. But at the moment, it's not clear. And but as we've seen from Dubai Expo, it is important to start moving on these things because the deadline cannot be missed. Question about Almiral. Almiral petrochemical complex was awarded last year and is going through the detailed design, a detailed engineering phase, and will start construction this year, I imagine. I can't answer all of your questions. I'm very, very sorry. I'm trying to get as many questions which are as broad as possible. What are Chinese companies' involvement in Giga projects? Well, there's a lot of Chinese companies coming in to do the heavy infrastructure work. Look at NEOM, for example, look at Numaraba. The Chinese are there in force. They can bring in a lot of cranes and trucks and labor, and are experts in heavy lifting and infrastructure types work. So they're being very involved, and we're going to start seeing them more involved in low-rise villa type work as well. And when you're looking at some of the tall tower projects as well, the Chinese companies like China State, for example, have huge expertise in these areas. So I would expect to see the Chinese involvement contractor market keep growing in Saudi Arabia. There's a slight slowdown in construction activity in China, so it makes sense for a lot of these Chinese companies to come to the kingdom. And there's also a geopolitical aspect to that, of course, as well. We haven't seen Magna, but Magna is part of the Gulf of Aqaba region in NEOM, and that's the tourism hotels element. You've seen some very futuristic, impressive hotel renders come out. About a dozen hotel projects under the Magna Gulf of Aqaba region of NEOM, and a lot of the infrastructure work's already underway there. This is a little bit like the Red Sea Global in a way. It's about creating a tourism ecosystem for the far north of Saudi Arabia along the Gulf of Aqaba and the Red Sea coast. So that is moving ahead. You have not mentioned Expo. Well, so Expo is, as we know, it has to be delivered by 2030. It's about $7 billion. And as I said, we're not quite sure who the client is yet or where even it's going to be located. If anyone does know, please let me know, and I'll be happy to set the record straight next time. But details of it are still quite hazy. Question about mining projects. Yes, mining is now one of the key priorities for Saudi Arabia. It's got a huge untapped mineral wealth, resources. Ma'aden, of course, has been leading the charge over the years, but there's been a large number of licenses issued to international companies to mine for potential different minerals and materials in the kingdom. So we'll start to see that progress towards infrastructure type work over the next 5 years or so, provided that the mine ores are commercially viable. A new word on the causeway linking Saudi Arabia to Egypt. I think that's called the Tiran Causeway. I haven't heard anything about that, but given NEOM's location, I would expect that to be a core component eventually of NEOM. NEOM International Airport, what's happening to that? Well, it went a bit quiet. There was thinking that NEOM would focus primarily on the existing Dibba Bay Airport. I think that's the word, NEOM Bay Airport. But it does seem that there has been some movement on the design of the international airport and early works deal. So we might still see that come back, but it remains to be seen. When will Riyadh Metro open? It's a very good question, and a question that I've often asked myself. They're still undergoing testing before it can be commissioned, and there's still some works, as you know, under construction if you go and see the stations. But I think most of us would expect it to be opening over the next year or so. Any news on Saudi Railway, Land Bridge, and GCC rail connectivity? Well, both of those projects have been around a long time now. The Saudi Land Bridge linking Jeddah with Riyadh and then onto Dammam has been in negotiation with the Chinese for many years now, and is making slow progress. There may be an alternative mechanism used to build that, but at the moment that's still under those lengthy negotiations, right-of-way issues, and so on. But Saudi Arabia certainly could benefit from it. In terms of other railway projects, well, we've got the doubling of the Northern Minerals Railway, North-South Railway, between Ras Al Khair and the far north, Wadi Al Shamal. so to transport bauxite and phosphates. And we also have some work around the facilities and junctions in Jebel Ras Akher, done by SAR, Saudi Arabian Railways. As for the GCC rail link with UAE, bit quiet there, but there are consulting works underway on high-speed links with Qatar and Kuwait, definitely underway. And we may well see, we've seen Riyadh Metro and Mecca Metro also in the market, and we are hopeful as well that King Hamad Causeway will eventually kick off as well between Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. Any news on Mala? Well, Mala is part of Red Sea Global. It's pushing ahead as planned. Phase 1 of the Red Sea Global project is making excellent progress. I think 3 hotels are now open on the first phase of Red Sea Global, with Amala to come. Really impressive project, and I guess you can say it's probably, in my subjective opinion, one of the sort of more advanced Giga projects, and one of the first ones to open its doors, and really worth a visit if you can. Is there any single website for tendering of these Giga projects? No, there isn't. You have to, in fact, there's very little tender transparency at all. There are no public tenders for these Giga projects. You have to register with each of the Giga projects individually, and then if you might well receive some tenders when they come out. The lack of transparency on tendering on the Giga projects is a mega bugbear. It is impossible for companies to prepare resources and allocate and target companies if they simply don't know the breakdown of the future work and what or if and when work is coming out. There does need to be, in my opinion, a lot more transparency about the future pipeline. Even if you are registered and pre-qualified and access the vendor portal, there in many cases isn't any indication of what's coming up beyond some very bare bones information. So if you look at some of the clients, some are a little bit more transparent than others. Others are not giving any information away. And certainly there's no one portal to receive tenders. However, this is where MEED projects comes in. You can track what are the tenders out in the market and who is bidding, and what is coming up in the pipeline by visiting meedprojects.com. We don't actually hold the tenders themselves, but we are tracking each of the individual contracts, which allows us to quantify the data that you've seen today in the graphs and charts. And I have massively overrun as usual. Thank you for your questions. Where do you register for the Giga projects? You have to go to the website, the vendor pages and registration pages of each of the Giga projects to register. So go to NEOM, your website, you'll see a registration page. Red Sea Global, Daria all have their own registration pages where you have to submit your documents. Normally it's SAP Ariba or Oracle. You have to submit your documents such as NDAs, corporation, statements, all that kind of documentation, and then you can be registered, and then you can starting to receive tenders. Is there any information regarding the 2-kilometer high tower? Well, as you may have seen, Foster Partners from the UK, the architects, have been brought on board to design it. If it goes ahead, which is a big if, I guess, we would start to see that, I suppose, going to market later next year, possibly. If it does go ahead, huge engineering challenge, of course. Regarding the North Pole project, which is kind of around that, I think the idea is that first we'll see how the new Maraba project goes in terms of residential demand, commercial demand, before launching another project. I think there is an awareness that the Saudi authorities don't want to have too many residential projects in the market in Riyadh at the same time, so as not to flood the market and depress real estate pricing. When will Jeddah Tower going to restart construction? Pretty soon, we think. If you've been following MEED, we've been reporting on the tender issuance for that, as well as the bidders, and you'll hear it from us first once it's been awarded. Is 7 being moved to Qiddiya? It certainly is. It's now one and the same company. We did a slide on that earlier. And final question is, will you be doing a seminar on the UAE market? Quite possibly, yes. We'll certainly be doing a briefing later this year for our UAE clients. Anyone who's a client of ours, which is interested in the UAE market, is welcome to attend. Right, I've been sort of riffing on for about an hour and a half, 90 minutes. I'm sure you've all heard enough of my voice, so I'll leave it there. Please feel free to reach out to me. There's my details on this slide here, you can see. Please take a look at this report if you can. It's a fantastic report. And again, also have a look about our Giga Projects conference May next year. It is 11 months away, but now's the time to consider sponsorship or participation, because it is an incredible event with all the Giga Project clients, senior representatives talking about their projects, presenting the packages and construction opportunities there, and of course, fantastic networking workshops and other key companies, contractors, suppliers, and so forth, all in attendance. Okay. Well, look, thank you very much for the questions. Thank you very much for attending today. Hope you found it useful. You should receive a copy of this if you haven't already. And of course, over the next couple of days, we'll upload this video online to YouTube, and you'll be able to watch it again in your own time. That's it for me now. I'll be back next month for the next webinar. And just leaves me all to say thank you very much for coming along today. I hope you found it useful, and see you all again very soon. Goodbye.
Welcome to the MEED Saudi Giga Projects 2024.
An extraordinary vision of His Royal Highness King Salman and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. A vision manifested into reality through the astonishing Giga Projects in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.